Sup, young stunners? Here we are today. Garage topics, beautiful day, S2000. Coilovers in my hand. These bad boys are going on the car today. Enough's enough. I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this car, how I'm going to set it up, and I wanted to do it all at once so I didn't have to repeat costs, such as which wheels am I going to use, what camera is going to have to run based on those wheels, yada yada yada, what tires, what size, etc. So the last video, we established that we're using the 17x9 plus 63 millimeter offsets with the TR Motorsports C3s tie rack wheels. They're relatively lightweight, they're pretty cheap. I got them really cheap used. They're dirty, we gotta clean them up, but these wheels have a really great offset for the S2000. It's just aggressive enough, but not too aggressive that you're gonna have to run some crazy camber. So trying to get a daily driver, fun, spirited canyon car out of this thing, and that's what these are gonna do. This is gonna take it next level by lowering it, making it not 4x4 status, and getting rid of some of that rake, but also we're gonna have some adjustability in how stiff and how soft it rides whenever we want to, so it's gonna be dope. Some of you may have seen this already, but these ramps came with the previous owner. I just painted them black. It helps you get the car up on jacks to elevate it just a little bit to fit the jack under, but when you make them the black color, it makes it look super club duty fresh. Car's all up on jack stands, good to go. This is really easy on an S2000 because it has the double wishbone. So it's 2 bolts up top, bolt down the bottom, and then for the front, you're gonna take out the top control arm, and the back, literally, there's 3 bolts to hold the strut in, which is crazy. So the front, we take these 2 out, take the bottom one out, and then we got to take a look at the brake line. Has some bolts that clip to the strut, so we'll take those off so it doesn't stretch or anything. But so far, knock on wood, I don't know where's wood at. This S2000 has been really easy to work on. It's very intuitive, all the parts you have on it. I'm really liking it so far. So less blabbering, let me take this thing out. These are the 2 side by side, the stock obviously on the left and the Fortunato coilover on the right. You can tell it's a lot shorter in the current configuration, but this whole thing spins so that you can adjust it to the size. So this is the hard part to me. I don't understand what size to do it. I did it on the passenger side already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up into the passenger side, measure how the distance between this and the top, so that's the same on both sides, and then we're going to go with that. So this next day I was up into the late hours doing this. Word of advice, make sure you disconnect your sway bar because it'll make a ton of tension on the back. So disconnect those before you do anything. But here she is down here. It's looking okay, but like I mentioned before, the ground isn't level in here, so I can't exactly tell what height it's sitting at. So for that, I'm going to take it up to the street here and measure it with the measuring tape, the wheel gaps. It's going to set it a little bit more, but we'll take it up there and see how it looks. I hope that didn't get your mind. Your heart is too strong. Anyway, we need to fetch back the time they have stolen from us. Now want you, we can bring it down the floor. I've never danced like this before. We don't talk about it, dancing on. So I took it up again to the street and I got my wife to sit in it and then put some weights in the driver's seat to replicate me being in the car to try and get the exact measurements of what it should be. Surprisingly enough, the front was perfect. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally you got to try trial and error, take it out a ton of times. The rear though wasn't perfect. It's a little bit different side to side. So taking these in and putting them in and taking them out is pretty easy. It's literally 3 bolts. The bottom bolt here and 2 up top. You want to remove the sway bar link. That'll give you a nightmare. If it's too much tension, it'll just get stuck in there and ruin your day. This is just a 17 millimeter down here with a nut. It literally just comes right out. And those 2 bolts are just back in here behind the gas tank. I won't bore you with that. Press the control down just a little bit and voila, pops right out. That's why it looks really easy on all the YouTube channels, because they just slap them in, they're done. but none of them, I don't think, try to get this set up correctly, such as the preload and the measurement. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So something folks don't mention online is preload, and that's the tension on the spring. Cheaper coilovers, you actually tighten this to raise and lower the car, where this stays fixed and this bit adjusts so that you can adjust the height without ruining the tension here. But preload means the tension on the spring between the two. You don't want it to be super loose, but you don't want it to be like ungodly tight. This is especially for the front wheels because it's going to be articulating, but the back, not too much to worry about. You can measure it. It's supposed to be about 1/4 inch of compression versus it being open. A good rule of thumb is to make sure you can get the sizes on both, the same on both sides. So for good measure, we'll measure it. So these, I think, are 7 inches, and I have them right at 6 3/4, which is perfectly what we want it to be. So we're good to go with preload, but something to think about, something no one else mentions. As you can see, this is the stock one. It's pretty disgusting. It's got some weird colors on it. It must be JDM AF. But we compare this up to the aftermarket coilover, the Fortunato one. Obviously it sits at a different height, you can tell, but pay close attention. That's not the exact measurement, because what you have is the bottom of this, from where the holes is taller than what it is on the stock, and the stock is just a small inch. So you can't use that as a measuring point. You have to use the eye of the hole to the very top of where the mount is, and that was kind of tough. Alright, so here they are, both side to side, and what you're going to do, measure from the top to where the eye is on the bolt, which this is right at, making sure that's level, it's at 17 5/8. So let's measure it up to what we have now. Mind you, this is wrong, so we got to adjust it, but just to give you a reference of what we're looking at. This right here is at 16 even, so about 1.5 inches, so a little bit more. And I think what we need to do on this rear one is we need to actually raise it up 1/2 inch. 2.5. Let's make this 3 1/4 between this and this. And so what we do is get the smaller ring, and we're gonna bust this loose. Hopefully I don't make a fool of myself. I put it on too tight, so I put it actually back in the car to loosen this. So let's make this 3 1/4 inch. Spin this out. You get the point. This is kind of slow and tedious, but holy cow. I don't know how it, alright. I just did that on the fly. That was perfectly 3 1/4, so all I have to do is tighten it now. So let's go put it back on the car. Alright, we're going to slap it back in here. You literally will see how easy this is. Boom. Done. So we're measuring from this bit to this bit down here, and we need it to be 3 1/4 perfectly, and it is perfectly 3 1/4. These little bits where you put the wrench in help to measure, but that is perfect. So what we're gonna do now, we hand tighten it, but now we're gonna just give it a little tug, and I'll give it a final tug once it's in once the bolt's in its place. But for now, all right, tight. After making these measurements literally 5 times, I was noticing that the measurements weren't even every time, measuring from the bottom of the wheel, the rim, to the top of the fender. It wasn't matching up. I came to the conclusion after moving the car around that the road up top from where I live is not even anywhere, which was a real bummer. I spent a lot of time adjusting it, trying to get it right, and it never made sense. So I called my buddy up, Andre, who has the Sweet Miata. His garage has a really flat ground, and in that way we'd be able to get the correct measurements. So took it over to his shop, got the measurements we needed, dropped the car actually a little bit more to make it look super Club Duty fresh, and it looks awesome now. And it's all measured up correctly. All right, back in the old Club Duty garage, looking dope AF. This fitment is on point, both the front and the rear. Issues were that the front were matching side to side, but the rear, with my weight in it, makes the total length of the rear coilovers different side to side. So right now it's a little bit off, but when you sit in the car, it's dead even flush. Pretty much good to go, although we got tons more to go. No one ever mentions this. Since we lowered the car, there's a little bit of a chatter coming from the rear. It's due to the axles. I'll get into that more in a second, but first things first, we need to release this axle nut, which is probably held in with like 400 pounds of force because of rust and age. So Unstock the nut in there, you can see, with a good old screwdriver, and get your muscles ready, get your Wheaties, get some protein, and a big ass breaker bar. Let's do it. I cheated, I got the other side out off already, thank the Lord. You gotta trial, make sure it's actually gonna work when I do it on video, hopefully. You need to put the car, handbrake, you need to chuck the tires, because as much force that we're putting on will actually spin the tire. It's kind of nuts, so if you can, pop the cover off the nut, chuck the tires with some wood, put it in gear, put the handbrake up. For this case, we need to spin it backwards, so I'm just going to keep it in gear. I got this big ass breaker bar. The Harbor Freight bar with just one of these bars was actually flexing this, which was sketchy. So I'm actually going to lose a little bit of leverage, but in turn hopefully gain the leverage because we're not losing that and some mass being lost by the bending. This is a 36mm nut. I didn't have one of these, so I had to rent it from Advanced Auto Parts. You pay 60 bucks and then you get your money back after the fact. I hope I don't snap my thing. Oh my God. Shit. Damn it. There goes my night. Straight up snap this thing. That's friggin' sucks. I had a tight deadline coming up, so I needed to get the car aligned. The correct way to do it with the suspension setup that we did was for me to sit in the car because it can make a difference. So the guys at Bob Wizzle Alignment were really cool, let me sit in the car. It was a little awkward though, being lifted up into the air to get the alignment done. It was hot as crap that day, but the alignment came out great. I got the numbers I wanted, which I'll share in a second, and it was looking dope AF. The tight deadline I set for myself was driving a Hyperfest. It made it down there fine, but anything over a quarter throttle, I had some vibration from the axles. So instead of getting it aligned again, I needed to get some axle spaces. Hopefully that would fix the trick. So back at the old trusty desk. Mad shout out to Modern Automotive Performance. I'm not getting paid by them or anything, but I called them up. I wanted to make sure that the shipping time would be quick, and they called me up and let me know it would be there in time, and it was actually early. So kudos to Modern Automotive Performance. I'll put a link for where I got this from. These are actually Block's brand axle spaces. You can get them in any color you want, but it comes with the hardware. It also comes with the spaces, and these are two-piece spaces, which is what it's going to make this job so much easier. The axles sit up against a flange for the differential, so nothing's going to leak. All you have to do is pry it just enough for these to get loose, and then slip them in, and then bolt them down with the new hardware. So this should take literally 30 minutes, and it should really make the drivability of this car back to stock. So that, and this is just super JDM, brother. Super lightweight. Let's go put them on. Car's all jacked up and jack stand, safe AF. Right here is where we're gonna put these spaces in. Oh damn, that's so freaking shiny. Woo! So we're gonna bolt these things. You can get access to 3 of them, and obviously those ones up top are tight. So what you do is take the handbrake off and spin it around so you can get to that. But the handbrake in this case is going to work good so we can get leverage. So I'll figure out what size this is. We'll put a wrench on this and then a breaker bar on this and get them off. Once again, this S2000 is super easy to work on. I didn't even lube this up. It's kind of tight in here, so I just got this, a little whack of a hammer, boom, got them all loose. And now this nut and a bolt here, so I'm going to wrench these, get these off. But before I do, just to be safe, I'm going to mark where the two line up so that when we put the spaces in, if anything issues happen, we know exactly where it came off from. Alright, all the bolts are out. Came out pretty easy. I thought I was going to have to get a pry bar in here and spread this apart, but look, just with my hand, boop, that pops out enough there. That will slip these bad boys in, right in between the two. I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand, so you'll come back and it'll be in. You can see the super duper JDM blue's in. There's a little flange on here. Oh shit, so bright. That flange, when you separate it, you'll see a flange in there. So it's a flange on one side that sticks up and then it's an indent on the other side. The flange on the axle bit goes on here, and then this replicates what the axle was doing before. But it pops right in. Super easy. I just don't have 3 hands. Now, just gotta put the other one in and use the supplied bolts and nut, because this is obviously longer, putting more space in here, but super easy. Now that we've got the coilovers installed, the axle space is installed so everything drives smoothly, and the alignment set up, let's take it for a test drive and see how it performs. Third time's a charm, right? I've tried to make this video 3 times now, and I've screwed up audio or video all those times, so let's hope this is the one. The thing you need to know is that this car rides fantastic right now. With these coilovers on, I was really worried the ride quality was gonna suffer. This car can be 100% daily if you wanted to. It rides great. So there's 10K springs in the front, 9K springs in the rear. I've got the settings adjusted currently to be about 16 clicks up front, 12 clicks in the rear. That's from soft, from 0, and it rides really great at that rate. So we have that combination. We've got the wheels and tires on, which make it feel good. And then before I even did this coilover setup, I had a little bit of vibration hitting the gas. Those rear axle spaces did the trick, not only for that, but when I lowered the car, it made it a lot worse. It would vibrate pretty badly underneath any acceleration. Now it drives crystal smooth with those axle spaces. So let's go through the twisties up here, and I'll give you my impressions of how it performs. We're gonna have to go a little slow today because it's a weekend and there's a ton of out-of-town noobs driving around here. This thing is incredible. I wish you can't emphasize how much nicer the thing drives with these coilover setup compared to how it did stock, in both in terms of it feels more confident with the bounciness being relieved, but also the alignment too made a huge help. So I'll put the alignment up, but the front 0 toe, 6.5 degrees caster, and I think we did 1.5, 1.3, 1.5 camber. It'll be up on the thing. In the rear we did 1/8 toe total with 2.3 camber in the rear. And that's to get the back end to grip a little bit more, because I didn't want this thing to be super oversteery, but I didn't want it to be completely understeery as well. I wanted it to be kind of neutral so I could feel better about driving around. Not that I'm going to push it 10/10 on the street, but before, just darting through these roads, it felt a little bit sketch, whereas now it feels super planted. I cannot underestimate how happy I am about these coilovers. I was worried it was going to ruin everything, but it didn't. It made everything a tad. Wrong gear. Man, this thing is nutty. It's so much fun. I've been driving the crap out of this car recently. I've got 700 miles on these coilovers and they feel great. Before I did all the adjustments, I let it settle. I let the car just sit on the coilovers for a couple days before I got out of line, before I started tweaking with it to make sure it settled perfectly, and that did the trick. May as well hit VTEC, you know. This car friggin' screams. Golly. This road here isn't the best quality road either, in terms of the surface makeup. It's pretty rough, pretty bouncy. The coilovers, I mean, they're stiffer, don't get me wrong, but I guess the rebound on them, it just soaks up all of the bumps. Like, it doesn't feel jarring whatsoever. It's very smooth, very predictable. For those of you wondering, with my 62mm offset 17x9s, do I rub? I rub a little bit if I'm pretty aggressive with it, but honestly I think it's just the plastic lining of the fenders. I don't think they're fully clipped in, so I think the tire is hitting that a little bit. So yes, you can bolt these on and go for driving with them, no problem. You're not going to ruin your fender or anything. This is one of my favorite turns here. It's just predictable. My friends, is why I'm going to try and get the rev limiter sorted out. And so that's why I never really fully gun it to 82 or whatever, because if I miss shift like that, it'll blip it a little bit high. So we blipped it to probably like 84, 85 there, which is sketch in my opinion, and this car was about to hit us. Whoop. You could just throw this to any turn and just boop, goes straight through it. my limiting factor now is myself and the tires, probably, but honestly it's myself now, which before the car was the limiting factor. It just felt sketch. That's not the case anymore at all. This is a yield here. And there we go. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate all the views that I've been getting and all the comments I've been getting. It makes me want to keep making these videos more. If you got any questions, you got any comments, you know to leave them down here. But if you want a more direct response, send me an email, garagetopic@gmail.com. Check out the Facebook and Instagram page. I'm posting stuff there almost daily, whereas the videos aren't daily because it takes more time, obviously. So go check those out. And heads up, there's going to be some more swag coming out soon. So let's just say it's going to be Call of Duty fresh. You know what I'm saying? Alright, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure that your dog gets his coilover set up completely straight. And I'm going to hit VTech. Peace out.